Hello, I'm Julie Griffin, and I am here to give you a tour of the all-in-one spreadsheet first tab, which is going to be how we can track our session information and our income. So hopefully you've already downloaded the spreadsheet and you've opened it up. And let's see, let's make this bigger for everyone. We're here on the very first tab called Session plus Income Tracking. And before we get started with this stuff down here, I want to just show you the top. I use the top of the spreadsheet to make notes for myself because I'm very forgetful and I cannot remember passwords to save my life, especially passwords that have to be updated on a regular basis. I'm sure you know what I mean. You have those passwords where they said, oh, your password has expired. And you're like, I just reset a new password 6 weeks ago. Anyway, I use the top of the spreadsheet to make notes for myself that just save me time. So over here on the left-hand side of the top, I have my tax quick reference information. Every state and every city are going to have different laws and rules about what type of tax you have to collect or pay based on your photography activities. But no matter what that is, you're probably reporting money somewhere some increment of time. So this would be where you could put perhaps your sign-in information, PINs, password hint, and if you're like me and you pay by e-check because you don't like to pay credit card fees, this is where I have my business account routing number and account number so that I don't have to look that up every time that I'm reporting taxes for the state of Arizona, which is where I'm located. I can use this area up here to make other notes for myself because I'm only using one spreadsheet to track all of my stuff. So I want anything that I'm going to want to reference when I'm doing these sorts of businessy things on a regular basis. I want it all in one place. So I just make notes for myself up here. And then over here to the right is where I have my quick reference or my cheat sheet for mileage. Now, I don't like to use a mileage tracking app simply because an extra app to me means one more thing that I have to remember to do every time I go shoot a session. And I am very forgetful. So I prefer to track all my mileage at the end of the year because I have captured everything in such an organized way throughout the year. It's really easy for me to just do it one time instead of having to remember every time I leave the house to turn on my mileage tracker. If a mileage tracker works for you, that is totally okay too. You should do what works for you. This is just what works for me. So at the top right-hand side of my spreadsheet, I have a quick reference guide for locations that I frequent. I know everybody who's looking at this probably has locations that they go to on a regular basis. So rather than try to remember or look up how far those places are, just put them up here. There's probably a park or a wash or a trail or a farm or maybe a downtown that you go to on a regular basis. So you're going to put the round trip mileage for each of those locations up here in your little quick reference. All right, so let's move down here to the actual tracking part of the spreadsheet. You can see I've already populated January with some sample information for sessions. So let's just look at each of the columns that I have here. We have the date of the session, the client, just their last name is fine. Or if you want to put more detail there, that's fine too. I just do the last name. What type of session it was, the fee, which would be your income, how much you charged. The next column is the tax that you collect. And again, every city and every state is going to have different laws regarding what you need to collect on your sessions. In the state of Arizona, all professional photography activity is taxable, whether it's a service or a tangible product. So that makes it kind of easy for us. So find out what the laws are in your state, and you're going to need to change the formula to reflect the tax that you are collecting. So for me, in the city that I'm in, which is Gilbert, Arizona, the tax rate is 7.8%. That means on top of every session fee, I need to collect 7.8% and turn that over to the government because I have the privilege of conducting a transaction in my city. So up here, can you all see the cursor? I have a formula that is equals, and I've put the fee cell before that, times, which is in Excel and Google Docs and Apple Numbers programs, the times or multiplication is going to be the asterisk, and then you're going to put in your percentage. So my percent is 7.8%, which is 0.078. So that's the formula that's here. I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to be able to drag that down so that all of the following sessions are going to pick up that same formula. Then the total payment column is going to be the fee plus the tax you collected. So this is the amount that the client actually paid, and that's going to be simply a sum of the two preceding cells, and that formula is going to go down the remainder of that column. And then the next one is the method of payment, because it's always good to remember how you were paid. Then price list notes. This would be if, for example, somebody won a contest or a raffle that you did on social media. Perhaps it's a family discount or a loyalty discount that you give to certain clients where you're honoring old prices for returning clients, or anything that would mean that this client paid a different amount than the rest of your clients that are doing that same type of session. You could just make a note of that here. The next column is the location. And then the next column is going to be for miles round trip. Now, I don't actually populate this until the end of the year using my little quick reference up here, but I always do make note of the location while the session is fresh in my head. Then I have a column here for if I had an assistant at the session, because I try to have an assistant with me at any session that has 3 or more children, or sometimes even fewer than 3 children, if I feel like it's going to be really helpful to me. So I have a handful of assistants that I will get in touch with and see if they can come and help me with the session, and I highly recommend that, but that's another lesson for another day. Anyway, this column is for if you have an assistant, and if so, what wage did you pay that assistant? And this column right here is for if you paid a site fee or a permit to shoot at the location where you shot your session, because a lot of popular locations do charge a site fee or require a permit to shoot there, and we want to be legitimate professionals, and we want to pay for our locations so that we can continue to have access to them. And the last column, maybe just for me, but I do include a printed item with most of my sessions. So this is just a column for me to make note of if the client does get a complimentary print item as part of their session. So you can see those are the columns that really keep track of everything that you need to know throughout the year for every session that you shoot. You don't really need to know anything more than this as far as your sessions go. So at the end of every month, we are going to use this totals row down here. We're going to see that we have a formula here. This is a sum for this entire column. This is a sum for this entire column, and this is a sum for this entire column. And then if you do file your sales tax monthly or your income tax monthly, you could just use this cell here to make a note of the date that you filed and a confirmation number if you got it. That way, if there are any issues with the government, you can just simply go back and say, no, I filed on the 3rd, and here's my confirmation number, and that's just going to make your life a little bit easier, making a note to yourself. Okay, so January's over. What do we do next? This is how I use the spreadsheet. I'm going to copy January, all of these rows right here. I'm going to highlight them all. Then I'm going to use Command-C on a Mac or Control-C on a PC, which is the same as edit, copy. I'm just going to go a few cells below, and I'm going to go Command-V or Control-V on a PC. And it's going to be edit, paste, and it's going to paste everything here. And now I'm going to just make this say February. And I'm going to delete all of this information except for the first line because I want to retain those formulas. And then I'm going to type my session information for February. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and make this not yellow because you would have already changed your formula by the time you got to February, hopefully. Or if you're just picking this up in the middle of the year, you're going to change your formula right when you set up your spreadsheet. So we're going to make this no fill and delete this little note here. All right, so let's just do a quick February. Let's say on February 5th, I did the Sooner family, and it was a family session. My fee was $600. I collected tax. They paid by Zelle. No priceless notes. Let's say that I went to Unicorn Park, which I could put in if I wanted, was 4 miles. I did not have an assistant. No wage, no permit, and yes, a print item was included. Let's say on the 10th, I did the Williams family, and they just had a baby, and we did a fresh 48 at the hospital. I'm going to type in my fee. I'm going to click on this cell above, and I'm going to drag it down to have that formula populate all of these remaining cells in this column for February. And let's say they paid me by check. And this was at Mercy Hospital, which from my cheat sheet I can see is 13 miles. Let's say I did not have an assistant, no permit, and yes, a print item was included. And let's just do one more. Let's say on the 14th, maybe I did the Barber family, and this was kids only. Let's say, oh, it's Valentine's Day. Let's say I did like some mini sessions, kids only. And they paid cash, and the location was my neighborhood, so I did not even, we'll say these were seasonal minis, which I don't actually do seasonal mini sessions, but a lot of people do, so that's why I'm putting that in here. 0 miles. Let's say I did have an assistant because I had 3 sessions right in a row. I had Jane come help me, and I paid her $30, and I did not need to pay a permit. And no print item is included. So let's do the other Valentine kiddos. Let's say this was the Faith family, and it was kids only, $300. They paid by check. This was also seasonal minis at my neighborhood. Jane, this would go for all of these sessions. So I don't need to put 30 each time. Oops, cancel. And I had one more. Let's say that this was the Newsom family, and it was a kids only session. They also paid by check. Seasonal minis, and this was in my neighborhood. Jane, yes, all good. Okay, so let's say this was my February. Now I have my total. I'm going to always double check to make sure that my total cell is capturing all of the numbers in the column above. Same here, everything's captured. Then I'm going to probably file my taxes for the month, and I can easily report this amount of income and say I collected this much tax. Let's just do one more month real quick for the sake of learning. So I've grabbed all of these rows for February. Now I'm going to click here, a couple of cells below February, and I'm again going to go edit, paste. Now I'm simply going to type March, and I'm simply going to delete everything except that first line because I want to keep those formulas. And let's say I had just a couple sessions in March for the sake of time here. Let's say on the 8th I had, let's say the Adams family, and they had a baby. I did a newborn session in their home. I'm going to put in my session fee. Let's say they paid me by check, and this was in the client's home. And let's say I did bring an assist. Ooh, let's say it was twins, and I brought Jane to assist me again. Let's say I paid her $30, and I did not need a permit, and there was no print item included. And let's say on the 12th, I did the Bloom family, and we did a family session. And let's say that they won a contest also, and they had $100 off their session. So their session's $100 cheaper than my normal session fee for this type of session. I'm going to drag this down to retain my formula, drag this down to retain my formula. I have the tax that I collected and the total payment that they made by check. Then in Pricelets note, I'm going to put $100 off, contest winner. And let's say I shot this at the Cloudy Wash, which is 11 miles away. and I did not have an assistant, and I did not pay a permit. And yes, a print item is included. And let's do one more. Let's say on the 18th, I did the Jones family. They also had a baby. Oh no, let's say this was a day in the life session, which is I'm with them all day. It's a lifestyle session. It's my favorite kind. And their tax would be grabbed from the cells above. And let's say they paid me by Zelle. And we did this we started at their home, and then we went to Hayes Farm at the end of the day at sunset. So Hayes Farm here, and I would also type in client's home so I could calculate that at the end of the year. No assistant wage, but Hayes Farm does charge a $50 permit. And yes. Okay, so I've got March done. I'm going to double check my totals are grabbing all of the cells in the column above for that month, and I am good to go there. Now, let's say the whole year's gone by and we have 12 months that look just like this. We just have January, February, and March here, but we have 12 months at the end of the year. To determine your annual income, your total income that you made from the year, we're simply going to make another formula at the bottom of your spreadsheet. You're going to type the equal sign, type SUM for sum, and type open parenthesis, and then you are simply going to go and grab each of these totals from the 12 months that you have already logged on your spreadsheet. So we're going to grab January, then we're going to hit comma, February, and hit comma, March, and then you're going to hit comma and do that for all 12 months. When you've put them all in there, can you see this? I'll make it bigger. I'm going to hit enter, but then I'm going to make this super big. I double click to see the formula. So I have sum, parenthesis, and then I've grabbed each of those cells with a comma in between. So you'll have 12 of these here at the end of the year. Hit enter. And that's going to be your total income for the year. And then that's what you're going to need for reporting on your tax return, your annual tax return. Let's see. I'm going to make this big. Let's make it like 24. Merge these cells. Okay, let's make this small again. And the other thing I'm going to be able to do at the end of the year is determine all my miles. So if I haven't already typed it in, I'm going to go to my cheat sheet here, and I'm going to put in my miles. Narwhal Park, 15. Mercy Hospital, 13. Hayes Farm, 2. Down here, I already did these. And then down here, client's home. I've already collected the client's address on my client agreement form, which they fill out on my website that automatically populates a spreadsheet. So I have all of my clients' information, their phone numbers, their email addresses, and their addresses in one organized place from my website. And that's another discussion. But I'm just simply going to go look at their address on my spreadsheet and calculate how many miles it was round trip to and from my home office. And I'm going to put that in there. So let's say they were 22 miles round trip. And then I'm simply going to be able to make another total column. Oops, sorry. Down here for this column, I'm going to do equals sum, SUM, parenthesis. And then for this one, I can actually just highlight this whole column because all the numbers in here are what we want to total up. So I drove 82 miles to and from sessions in January, February, March. And then here I'm going to be able to do the same for how much I paid in wages to assistants equals SUM, parenthesis. I'm going to grab this whole column. So here you'd have it for the whole year, but right now I paid $100 in assistant wages in January, February, and March. And I'm going to do the same thing here for permits. And these are going to be useful on my expense tracking spreadsheet, which is the second tab, which is another video. So SUM, parenthesis, grab this whole column. And then at the end of the year, I have all of the numbers that I need pertaining to my sessions. I have my income, I have my mileage, I have the wages that I paid to assistants, and I have my permit fees. Okay, I hope this was super helpful. If you know me, you know that I don't like to spend money on things that I don't need or on things that I feel like I can do myself, which is why I don't use a fancy client management system. I hope that this spreadsheet is super helpful to you and just trying it out and seeing how you like tracking your own numbers without paying for a fancy CMS. If you have any questions for me at all, you can reach me at juliegriffinphotography@gmail.com or on my website, juliegriffinphotography.com. I hope you have a great day.